On June 25, 1877, tragedy struck the quiet hills of Scott County, Virginia. Henry Fugate, a hard-working farmer, was out plowing his fields between Nicholsville and Stillville, today known as Gate City. Suddenly, a gunshot rang out across the fields. Henry's relatives nearby heard the shot. They looked out and saw the plow horse racing across the field, its harness trailing behind. Lying on the ground, they found Henry, shot in the back. Though gravely wounded, Henry was still alive. With his last strength, he told them that the shot had come from the tree line that bordered his field. For 2 agonizing days, Henry clung to life. But the wound was fatal. He passed, unable to name his killer. Suspicion soon fell on a neighbor, Daniel Dean. Dean lived just half a mile from the Fugate farm. Months earlier, Dean and Henry had become bitter enemies. Henry and his father were preparing to testify against Dean in a perjury case, testimony that could ruin Dean's future. When the sheriff came for Daniel Dean, Dean didn't go quietly. He tried to escape, fleeing towards the safety of the mountains, but he didn't make it far. Dean was caught and taken to the jail in Stillville to await trial. His attempt to run convinced many locals that he was guilty. The community whispered. The noose, it seemed, was tightening. But Daniel Dean had one powerful ally, Patrick Hagan, one of the best defense attorneys in the region and the founder of nearby Dungannon, Virginia. Hagan believed in Dean's innocence so strongly that he refused to take a single cent for his defense. Daniel Dean's first trial gripped Scott County, but it ended in a mistrial. One juror, J.R. Wilhelm, refused to convict. He believed, without a doubt, that Daniel was innocent. His vote for acquittal deadlocked the jury. At the time, Wilhelm was running for sheriff of Scott County. He won the election before any final sentence could be handed down. But the legal battle wasn't over. The second trial brought more trouble and strange twists. One key witness came forward to accuse Daniel. But the truth soon came out. The man had been paid $50 to lie by his own uncle, a lawyer. When this was discovered, the uncle vanished, disappearing for more than 25 years. His nephew? He wasn't so lucky. The young man was sentenced to 3 years in prison for perjury. Once again, the jury couldn't agree on a verdict. The town was split. Tensions ran high. The court feared that neighbors were turning against each other. So they made a bold decision, to bring in a jury from outside Scott County. In May of 1878, nearly a year after Henry Fugate was gunned down in his field, Daniel Dean would stand trial once more, this time before strangers from Washington County. But the jury couldn't make a decision. The third trial of Daniel Dean would prove to be the most damning. This time, the prosecution came prepared. Several witnesses took the stand, swearing that Daniel had threatened Henry Fugate. Dean, they said, had told them Fugate would get what was coming to him. But it wasn't just words that sealed Daniel Dean's fate. It came down to a gun. Dean's own rifle was in the shop, left at the Cleek store in Stillville for repairs. So, he borrowed another rifle. A neighbor named Francisco lent him a large bored gun with a square barrel. That rifle would be his undoing. Investigators searched the spot where they believed the shot had been fired. There, on a fence rail, they found something unusual, a square indentation just behind a bush. Police believed the killer had rested the rifle on the rail to steady his shot. When the gun fired, it kicked back, leaving its mark. When officers tested the Francisco gun against the indentation, it was a perfect match. And there was more. The bullet that killed Fugate matched the weight of the bullets fired from the Francisco rifle. When the court sent for the gun, Dean insisted it couldn't be fired, claiming the trigger would stay cocked. But experts proved otherwise. The rifle had been fired recently, and someone had tampered with the trigger after the shot. Dean's only defense came from his 2 sons. They swore that on that fateful Monday morning, they were with their father the entire time, and that he couldn't have killed Henry Fugate. But would their testimony be enough to save him? In the end, Everything the prosecution had against Daniel Dean was circumstantial. They argued that Dean had been in the area at the right time, in the right place. Then he had the means, a rifle, the opportunity, the perfect cover of the tree line, and the motive, a bitter grudge against Henry Fugate. And when Dean tried to run, well, to many, that sealed it. Daniel's defense fell to Patrick Hagan, a brilliant lawyer and a man convinced of Dean's innocence. Hagan spoke for 8 long hours. His voice echoed through the courtroom as he fought to save Daniel's life. But it wasn't enough. Daniel Dean was found guilty, convicted entirely on circumstantial evidence. Refusing to give up, Patrick Hagan took the case to the Virginia Supreme Court, hoping for a final chance at justice. The Virginia Supreme Court delivered its final word. The county court's ruling would stand. Daniel Dean's conviction, based solely on circumstantial evidence, was upheld. For Patrick Hagan, it was a crushing blow. The lawyer who had fought so fiercely for Daniel's life made a vow right there in the courtroom he would never again take part in a criminal trial for as long as he lived. But fate had one last cruel twist. J.R. Wilhelm, the lone juror who had fought for Dean's acquittal in the first trial, was now Scott County's sheriff. And it fell to him to carry out the order, to hang the very man he believed was innocent. And it wasn't just Sheriff J.R. Wilhelm who believed Daniel Dean was innocent. Half the community felt the same. Legend tells that Wilhelm was so desperate to avoid hanging Dean, he offered a deputy $300 to carry out the execution in his place. But the deputy refused. He too believed Dean hadn't committed the crime. From the start, everything about the hanging felt wrong. Instead of building a scaffold, the town chose to save money. They decided to use a tree. As the day approached, the community reached a breaking point. Neighbors turned against neighbors. Fights broke out in the streets over whether Daniel Dean deserved to die. Then came the rumor that a group of townspeople planned to break Dean out of jail. In response, a mob formed, determined to hang Dean before the rescue could happen. The hanging of Daniel Dean was anything but peaceful. Instead of going quietly, Daniel fought, kicking, screaming, and begging for his life. The crowd watched in horror as the scene unfolded. Among them were Dean's 2 young sons. Their cries for their father echoed across the field, adding to the chaos. The town was split. Half demanded Dean's death. The other half believed they were about to witness the execution of an innocent man. Things grew so tense that Scott County had to call in extra deputies from neighboring Washington County just to keep order. In the very end, Daniel Dean proclaimed his innocence. Sheriff Wilhelm stood beside him in the wagon, his heart heavy. As the minister read the final rites, Daniel sobbed, pleading for mercy, begging them to stop. Then, without warning, Wilhelm leapt down into the driver's seat. Grabbing the reins, he snapped them hard. The horse lunged forward, the wagon rolled out, and the deed was done. Overcome with rage and grief, Wilhelm lashed out at the townspeople. "You are nothing but Yankee demons from hell. God will destroy you all." Those words would go down in history as the curse of Estillville. Some say the curse haunted the town for years, even driving it to change its name. As for Wilhelm, legend says he left town that very day, never to be seen again. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you found this video entertaining. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing to the channel. It really helps me out and lets you know when new content drops. Don't forget to hit the like button and leave a comment. I love hearing from you guys. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.